hearing about a project that Tom Reed is going to present to us.
It is a special meeting.
It's a special meeting, it's a public hearing. that's all.
It's not.
Well, it's not a public hearing, it's a special meeting for this. Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, please rise and salute the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic
which stands
one nation under
under
God,
God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
for all.
Councilman Lewandowski.
Here.
Councilman Fazio.
Here.
Councilman Niles.
Here.
Supervisor Molino.
Here, and before we start with Tom's presentation, now I'm going to read a resolution.
Yes, we have a resolution that we would like to discuss and put to a vote tonight. Resolution number 55 of 2022 to fill the vacant seat on the town board. Whereas there exists a vacant seat on the town board, and whereas town law section 64-5 authorizes the town board to appoint a qualified person to fill the vacancy. Now therefore be it resolved that Timothy Hanlon is appointed to the town board through December 31st, 2022.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'd like a roll call on that, please.
Are you opposed? Opposed. Yes. Councilman Lewandowski.
Aye.
Councilman Fazio.
Aye.
Councilman Niles.
Aye.
Supervisor Molino.
I'm going to oppose this resolution because I just feel that there wasn't enough notification to the town taxpayers to fill an application out and have a chance to get put on this board. The nomination comes from the Republican committee, which I have no problem with. And I think the gentleman will do a great job. But just because I just feel we were not allowed to put it out to the public. I had some people wanted to fill out an application and I had to deny it because the board didn't want to put it out. So I will just abstain from the vote. Thank you.
Any more discussion?
You voted.
If you folks don't mind, we'd like to proceed and get Mr. Hanlon sworn in. Take just a couple minutes.
I, Timothy Hanlon, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York. And I will faithfully discharge the town council according to the best of my ability.
Thank you.
Is it okay print underneath it?
Is Kevin O'Brien here?
Is he on the Zoom by any chance? Just tell.
Thank you.
Kevin O'Brien, are you on Zoom? Okay. Let's go.
All right, can we move on now? We'll have Mr. Reed give his presentation.
Before Tom starts, I just want to make a correction
Oh, yes.
on the letter that I sent out to various property owners. It started out at the upcoming special town board meeting on Tuesday, March 29th, 2022. A fellow landowner is making a presentation to the town board members regarding the 2019 Adirondack Park Agency map amendment application the town submitted that was denied with prejudice. That should read without prejudice. That was a mistake on my part. I just wanted to make a correction.
All right, thank you, Karen. All right, Tom.
You can use that time.
Because I have other-
Tom, in your opinion, what would be the best way to inform the public about this? Do you want to do your complete presentation and then have discussion? Or would you want people to be able to interrupt with questions or what?
No, we're gonna ask the people to hold their comments or questions after the presentation. I think that'll be easier, especially for people on Zoom. Okay? And then we'll have a public.
Use the microphone.
Could you speak from that microphone right there, or do you have to be there?
Well, it's,
I'm gonna be using some masks.
Okay, so you can use that mic?
Yeah.
You have to be about 6 inches or less away from these microphones.
Now, when I'm using the maps, you'll be able to hear me, but I'm afraid that people on Zoom won't. So I'll try.
If you
and
speak
describe-
loud enough in the mic, it will.
Right, okay. So, the reason I'm here is to request that the town make a proposal to the park agency to re-propose 2019-01, which was to have the park agency make land use change.
Can you speak louder?
You gotta get closer to the mic.
Okay, is this better? Is this on? Okay. That better?
Yeah.
Can't tell if it's better now.
Well,
It's gonna be-
it's closer.
Is this better? This better now?
Yes.
Okay. So, thanks, Paul. So, what we're gonna do is we're going to, talk about the Lake Luzerne zoning at Lake Benar. The area in question is Lake Benar. We'll talk about the APA's land use. Now, the park agency uses land use like we use zoning. Sometimes they'll say zoning, sometimes they say land use. But for the most part, they'll use the term land use. The park agency has suggested this zoning modification, and I'll go through that. This was suggested by the park agency. We'll talk about why it's important for the town, and then what the procedure is for the town. Okay, so Lake Benar is a secondary hamlet in the town of Lake Luzerne. This is identified in the town's comprehensive plan as one of 3 areas for community growth. So it's in the town's comprehensive plan as an area of growth. The town zoning ordinance considers Lake Benar area a residential resort area. And what the town zoning map indicates is the greater Lake Benar area, which has 3 lakes. It's Lake Benar, Lake Forest, and Lake Allure. They're all zoned for 1 dwelling per acre. The whole area is, and I'll show you that on the map. And the town has this right. The town zoning fits the area's environment and it fits the current use. So the towns, this is all at the town right now. And now this is the map. This map is in the town's comprehensive plan. Now, I'm going to get up and talk to the map for a minute. So it's probably going to be tough for the people on Zoom, but I'll come back afterwards.
We can't see the map.
You can't see this map?
Oh, that was somebody on Zoom said that.
Oh,
I did. Glenn Conchatori. Can't see the map.
I can't help that, but I'll explain what's on the map, okay? What's on the map is the area of the 3 lakes, which are right here.
Get closer to the microphone, please.
I will speak to the microphone after I talk to the people that are here and explain that, so I'll explain it twice. So on the map, as I was saying, these are the three lakes in the Lake Bernard area, and they're bisected by Route 99, which is this red line coming through here. Surrounding Lake Bernard is Hidden Valley Road. So Lake Bernard is encompassed by 99 and Hidden Valley Road. All this area, that looks a little bit yellow, but that's light green. That is in the comprehensive plan as zoned as one dwelling per acre. All right, now go back to point it to the focus over here. So as I was saying, on that map, the three lakes in the Lake Bernard area are Lake Bernard, Lake Forest, and Lake Allure. And those lakes are bisected by Route 9N. And Lake Bernard itself is bordered on the north side by Hidden Valley Road. So Lake Bernard essentially is surrounded by Hidden Valley Road and Route 9N. Now that entire area around those three lakes is already zoned by the town of Lake Luzerne as one dwelling per acre. So next, we'll go to the next slide. Now let's talk about the park agency. The park agency's land use is a close match to the town zoning, except in one area. We'll get to that. Now, where the park agency's red is one dwelling to 1.3 acres, the town's light green is one dwelling per acre. And we're going to see that in the next slide that these overlap pretty good. The APA red matches up pretty well to the town's light green in most of the map except one area. Ann, can you do the next slide, please? Okay, so now this is basically the same map as you saw before, except it shows the park agency's red. The dark red line going through is still 9N. You can still see the three lakes, Lake Bernard, Lake Forest, and the little lake to the right of Lake Forest is Lake Allure. Basically, the entire south side of 9N by the park agency is zoned red, one dwelling per 1.3 acres. The entire inside of the Hidden Valley Road going along Lake Bernard is zoned red. On the northern side of Hidden Valley Road, half of it is zoned red. Now I'm going to go up and just point to the map for a second. So this is again 9 coming down through here. Bisecting the two lakes. All of this red area is zoned 1.1 dwelling for 1.2 by the park agency. That stops here and doesn't continue down Hidden Valley Road to here. But keep in mind that all of this was one dwelling per acre for the town. So it matches up pretty close to the town except this one area. And we'll get to that now. And a representative from the park agency visited the town in October 2019 to discuss this zoning difference. He brought with him a map of the area and suggested that the town propose a change. So this was a park agency representative saying that the town should propose a change to the APA. This change was outlined along Hidden Valley Road and New York Route 9N, and the change was submitted by the town to the park agency as proposal 2019-01. Next slide. Okay, that area outlined in black was considered a quote, a grid by the park agency representative, and that is the grid that he suggested the town send up as 2019-01. I'm just going to go point to it. So this area here, which is already zoned one dwelling per acre by the town, the park agency suggested that the town take this and submit to the park agency a request to change that to red, so that red will continue here. Okay. Next slide, please. So what happened when the park agency reviewed the proposal, that 8052C1 that's the guidance that the park agent has for these proposals. The pandemic hit, and it just went crazy across the state. The park agency has in its guidance that they have to follow up in certain months and days to requests like this, but they just simply couldn't do it, and nothing could be done in the timely fashion back then. Nobody actually knew how to use Zoom back then. So ultimately, the park agency requested more support materials, and then the APA proposal is sent back to the town without prejudice, meaning that the park agency was open to a re-proposal. And that's what we're here about tonight, is for the town to re-propose it, and that's at hand. And it answers all issues and that came up during the 2019 review, and it also has additional support materials. So the question becomes, why is this important? Next slide, then. Well, two things. First, according to the 2020 census, in the last 10 years, we've lost 8% of our population. It's gone from 3,353 to 3,079, an 8% decrease, meaning fewer taxpayers are paying higher taxes. Complicating things, and according to the 2020 census, the average age in New York State is 38.3. Our average age in Lake Luzerne is 50.4. We have many older people on fixed incomes that are paying these taxes. And there's fewer, and we're kind of losing our youth. Next slide. According to the New York State Education Department, they have a report called the New York State School District Report Cards. These are the statistics from 2000 to 2001. We had a fall enrollment of 1,138 students. Last year, 2020 to 2021, it had decreased to 635. We had a 44% decrease in our students. That also meant we have a decrease in young families to send the kids to school. So, and by the way, along with this, we have very few reasonably priced homes for sale in the Lake Luzerne and Lake Bernard area. Next slide, please. This is a slide that's a little bit cumbersome, but this is all in the comprehensive plan also. I'm going to go to the slide first, and then I'll come back to the microphone for the people on Zoom. This is all the yellow area that the town has zoned for one zone for it. Now what happened, back when the comprehensive plan was developed, the consultants at that time actually went around and looked at where new homes could potentially be built in the area. And these little yellow squares represent where those consultants felt homes could be built. If you look under the grid, if you counted those little yellow squares, there'd be 30 of them. So there, some people on this proposal was first submitted in 2019 were saying, oh, that's not a visual concept. So this grid would probably welcome about 30 homes. A couple other things about this map, and I apologize for the volume, but these black areas that you see here, they represent either wetlands in the stream or a pond, or a very significant problem topography. It would be an elevation exceeding 15 degrees. So if you look inside here, right down at the bottom, you have an elevation problem. And right in here, you get interrupted. All of this area, if you're looking, is red. All this area is red. Look at the size of this wetland. That's very Pine Creek. Just a little bit of geography. Very Pine Creek in Lake Bernard. Lake Bernard exits underneath 9F into Lake Forest. If I follow Lake Forest down, Lake Lure, by the way, it's forest also. There's a dam down here, and it goes back into the stream. That stream is called Berry Pond Brook. The Berry Pond Brook actually is the source of all the water that's in this area. That's a reasonably important slide. That's what I mean.
Just so you know, those yellow dots that you're talking about,
Yeah,
they're not visible. They can't be seen.
I'm sorry for that. I apologize for that. It's in the town comprehensive plan. If you go to the town comprehensive plan, you go to the maps, it's there. This is taken from that. So the problem with the quality is it's when you expand the maps, you lose some of the quality. So in summary, the town comprehensive plan has the proper zoning now. And the current zoning does fit the current use. The zoning ordinance, the town maps, the town residential resort designation, these are all correct for the area. The soils, the topography, and road frontage are in line with current town zoning as well as with APA land use, APA zoning. So the proposed change aligns this area with everything around it under the APA red designation. So this reproposal, it requires no funding from the town. There's no town zoning changes required. It's simply a resolution from the town to send it in. So if anybody's got any questions or comments, can we get lights?
Yeah.
You want to get them both back there?
Yeah.
Excuse me a second. It's almost impossible to make a comment when we can't see the maps, because I have no idea what he's talking about.
I apologize for that. I don't, this is new for the town, I think, in terms of making a presentation like this. I don't think it's been done before, so we've got an issue with how to actually do something like this, and we're giving it our best shot.
All right, for people in the audience, if you're going to make a comment, I'd like you right here at this microphone so the people in the Zoom can hear you speak and ask you a question. So they might have the same question that has to be answered. So anybody wants to, just one at a time, come down, state your name and speak into the mic.
Gina Mincer. I live at 1275 Lake Avenue, so I'm in the part that is currently yellow, but the APA is recommending be red.
Okay,
And so just forgive my ignorance. I haven't lived there just a little over a year. So the recommendation is to go from the 1 acre, the 1 dwelling per acre to 1 dwelling per 1.3 acres.
no, with the town zoning will stay at 1 per acre.
Okay,
The red zoning will go on top of it, which will be 1.3, 1 dwelling per 1.3 acres. So it won't change the town's zoning at all. What does happen is that the park agency zoning takes preference, so it'll be 1 per 1.
right. So why would we want to do that?
In order to encourage growth.
So isn't that reverse? Would not, so my property is 5 acres in that spot. So I could have up to 5 dwellings on my property versus less than 5 if it went from 1 dwelling per 1 acre to.
Oh, the park agency right now has it zoned as 1 dwelling per 8.5 acres.
Okay, so you just showed us, you told us 1 acre per 1 point, or you said 1 dwelling per 1.3. Did I miss that?
No,
No.
you got that right.
Can-
Hold on for a second. Let
Tom?
me go back to a different chart.
Tom?
Yeah.
Our zoning does not match APA's classification. Someone coming into the zoning office to build something, I look at my zoning and I approve it or disapprove it. But I also say to that person, you are in the Adirondack Park Agency. It is your responsibility to check with the Adirondack Park to see if you can do what you are proposing to do under their regulations, because they supersede our regulations. I can approve it, but APA may come back and say, wait, you can't do this on that property because there's not enough land. That's the difference between Luzerne zoning and APA. I can approve it here, but it may not be approved at the Adirondack Park level, Adirondack Park level. So that's part of the discrepancy. The other discrepancy is our zoning says in those areas, for the most part, 1 house per 1 acre, where Adirondack Park is 1 house per 1.3 acres, and in some cases, 1 house 8.5 acres. So there's a discrepancy between the zoning and the APA. And what Tom is, I believe, trying to propose is to bring the differences a little bit closer so that it's not a difference of 1 acre as opposed to 8.5 acres on the Adirondack Park Agency side. It would be 1.3 acres on their side. But even though it could be approved here at the town, it's not going to be approved at the Adirondack Park Agency level.
Okay, so question number 2, for those of us and maybe even the people online, is the comprehensive plan on the website?
I don't know.
I do not believe that it is.
Okay,
That was one of the things that they took off because they told us it was not ADA compliant. And I do not have it scanned into my computer to email it out. It's not something that I have. I don't have a color scanner and I don't know.
okay, if Mr. Merlino, if you want to bring it to my office, I can scan it and get it back to you. in
There
color.
may be a copyright issue though with the company that did it. I don't know. I just throwing that out there. Because I know we looked into having more made and it was quite expensive to have them made. So I don't know what the issue
We
was.
should make it available.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have to call the company that produced it for us. Maybe we have to pay them to digitize it or something, and that's what we can do.
We did do that at one point, maybe within the last year, and they, I believe, gave it to us electronically
Okay.
because it's so expensive.
That's an electronic, isn't it? Is it like a PDF one?
I'm not positive if it's,
Do you think you
if
can
it's on
find
a
it?
CD. I can find out tomorrow.
I did. Of the town comprehensive plan? Okay. Yeah, I wonder if, when we started the town advisory committee
Did
last
we give you
fall,
this?
I don't have a disc.
Okay, I'll check on that. If
Yeah.
it's a disc
What
or,
format did it come in there? Remember? PDF, right?
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
should be easy to share.
So keep an eye on the website. If obviously we can find it if we have it. So we'll get it on the website.
We get it from you, man?
well, we
Can
can't
you
put
email
it
it back
on the
to me?
website because it's not ADA.
It's too big.
No, it's not.
Right, I didn't say put it on the website.
No,
We could send it
yeah,
to
we
people
can
that
send
want
it to people
That's-
like I
that's
do
easy.
my zoning ordinance. Exactly. Yes. It's not ADA compliant.
Right. So they could request it, maybe, but maybe we could have Jamie put a link on to get,
To request
well,
it.
Karen's link is there.
Mhm.
already.
I don't have it.
Well, if we have to
You
put
I
a,
don't have it.
if we have to put a qualifier on it, it says, no, be careful, this is not ADA compliant. Then-
I don't think we can.
Yeah, but it's,
Somebody wants. to-
right now, it's the document. Right now, it's the document that the town passed 12 years ago to figure out the direction the town wants to go in, okay? And Tom is saying this and that about it, so I think we should have access to it.
Mary Ellen Allison, Hall Hill Road. Before I begin, I just have a question for the board. In the beginning, I just wanted clarification about the wording, but will there be a public hearing about this before you take action?
Can I answer that? The park agency will definitely have a public
I
hearing.
understand that. I'm asking about town
You're
business.
asking if we send it to them before we have a public
Right,
hearing.
to
I
see
think
if
it
it
should
could
be
be
personally, but
better
that's it's totally up
advertised.
to the board itself. We sent it out 2 years ago without the public hearing, and I know you were objecting to it.
Yes,
And this time we're trying to stay in the,
because
full
on the
getting it.
website, it said there was a special town meeting, but it didn't say what it was about.
Right.
So I think if more people knew.
well, we wanted to get this out first to have it,
I
just,
believe it said what it was for.
yeah, just to get everybody to talk about it right now.
I-
And then we'll have to decide whether I believe it should be a public hearing eventually in the next month or so. Before it goes to,
What's the notice?
So-
It's like 21 days or something for a public hearing. Why don't we set one and do it? That way we can-
no, I'm full of, and I think the board is too, to have a public hearing. You know, this was just
Should be, yeah.
an informal meeting to
Okay.
get the people around the lake, because could be other people in other parts of the town that agree or disagree.
Some of the points that I wanted to.
Mary
make-
Ellen, hold on one second. I'm sorry. We had a discussion with the town attorney about this. And he said it's not required to have a
Yeah, It's
public
not
hearing.
required.
However, I believe everybody here wants to hear everything that needs to be said and brought up,
In the interest of.
regardless if we
transparency.
have to have it or not.
Okay, so the points that I wanted to make was that Mr. Reed was talking about the changing in the classifications. What I don't think he emphasized enough is the scope of the change. Currently, the property that he is talking about is classified for rural use, which requires the 8.5 acres per resident and is described as a place where reduced intensity of development that preserves the rural character of the land. He's skipping over the low intensity classification and going right to the classification of moderate intensity, which requires the 1.3 acres per dwelling and is described as relatively concentrated residential development. His proposed plan has a lot of ambiguous components. He didn't even discuss some of them. On his website, he talks about covenants and restrictions, but they're not defined, so there's really no way of knowing what plan is in place to protect the environment. He makes some claims there, and here that the town would benefit this, but he doesn't really say how the town would benefit this. I only see financial gain in one area, personal financial gain. It doesn't really show how that would benefit the area other than making it more congested. I'm most concerned about something that he claims on his website, that this is phase 1. I would like to know how many phases there are and what that looks like and how much land is really going to be opened up. I believe that Mr. Reed bought this property knowing the classification and that it should stand. Our town developed its zoning regulations to protect the land and residents, just as the APA assigned its land classifications. If you look at their website, they state that the purpose of the classification system is to channel growth and into areas where it can best be supported and to minimize the spread of development in areas less suited to sustain such growth. The classification of the property in question was not a mistake to be corrected. It was a decision made to ensure that the land was protected. Mr. Reed's own website describes his property as pristine wooded hillside slopes. That sounds like a resource that should be protected. Before the board makes a decision on this issue, the town master plan really should be reviewed and updated. And in closing, I have to emphasize that he purchased this property knowing the classification. Overdeveloping our open space is a detriment to our town. People travel here for the nature and the beauty and the quiet. The board should not petition the park agency on Mr. Reed's behalf. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Who are, give me one of them. Roberta, go ahead.
Good evening. Thank you. I'm sorry I'm not able to attend in person tonight. I would like to let you know that I am in favor of a further public hearing, especially considering I had expected or hoped anyway that the presentation would be on a laptop that could be shared on the Zoom meeting screen and not from afar. And I'm sure other people who are out looking at the meeting remotely would like an opportunity to view the documentation. So I would also request a public hearing. That's all. Thank you.
Yeah, we can get that done for you. And it will be done. Before we go any further, though,
Does Mr. Reed want to answer any of the questions? So,
I didn't hear a question. I heard a statement, so I didn't know we required a response. All we're doing is following up with the park agencies that suggested in terms of the zoning change. They felt like that the zoning change was appropriate, so they provided the map for it. And that's what we proposed back in 2019 and re-proposing now.
all right, and who, you had more hands up, go ahead. Who else? Janice?
Hi, thank you for hearing me, and I wish I could be there. I actually live in New Jersey, but we own a home right on Lake Venaire. I heard about this meeting just today through a neighbor, and I'm very interested in this topic. I had done some research about it when I first saw the signs being posted on Hidden Valley Road, and I'm very much interested in a public hearing. And I would like to know, how can I make sure, or how can we be sure that the people on Lake Venaire are going to be made aware of any meetings or any involvement on this project, and not last minute? Because I think it's very important for everyone to at least be aware and know what's being discussed.
All right, did you get a letter from us?
I did not.
Okay.
And I'm on the private road that backs right off of Hidden Valley Road. And my neighbor also owns property right on Hidden Valley Road.
What road are you on, ma'am?
I'm on Ridgewood Drive, right on the lake.
That goes off Hidden Valley Road down by Lake Venaire. It kind of fingers off there.
When I sent the letter out, I sent the letter to, using the map of the proposed change, I sent a letter to all of the people that own property within the change and any adjoining property to that area. So anyone outside of that area did not get a letter per se, but we did try to get it on the website as early as we could. Because there was a change in his proposal. That's why the first proposal that Mr. Reed brought to us was not the one that he's presenting tonight. It was a different map. And so I used that map for the first letter. Then he made a change in his proposal, and I had to send a second letter out because it involved more property.
So,
okay.
For the future, there's only, I think, about a dozen private homes on Lake Venaire. So I can't imagine it would be too difficult to get letters out to any homeowners. Can we create a list or something? I'm not really sure how this can occur, but I think it's very important. Some of my neighbors are on the Zoom and also in person right there.
Well, we can try and expand where we send the letters to. It's a little bit of a lengthy process, but if you want to be notified, go to the town website, to the zoning officers portion of the website. My email is there, and send me an email with your address, and I will put it in my file for this matter, and I will send it out when we send out new notices.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. And
You're
just one
You're
more
welcome.
comment.
I was gonna suggest that we set a public hearing tonight with everybody here. I mean, 21 days from now would be April 19th. And then, it's a night where we don't have any other meetings or anything like that, and we can concentrate on this topic. It's a Tuesday, 21 days from today, and I'll make a motion that we do it. If anybody else wants to second it, in a second, then everybody will know.
I'll second that.
We have a second here already. All in favor?
Aye.
All right with that, Gene?
Yeah, I'm just checking my schedule. Yeah, I'm in favor of that.
At 7 PM?
Yep. What was that date?
Opposed?
April
19th?
19th.
Hearing none carried. So April 19th at 7 PM.
April 19th.
That goes on the website also. Lori.
We gotta get it in the paper. too, right? You have enough time to get it in the paper.
All right, we'll continue with more conversation, but so everybody here now knows, and we'll hopefully be able to get more people notified. And thank you for that. Any other hands up? Glenn?
Yes. I have my hand up. Do I have an opportunity?
Please.
Yes, thank you. So I'm a resident on Hidden Valley Road, one of the dozen. I did receive a letter, so thank you for the notification. I'm just trying to catch up with what the objective is, and it looks like what we're trying to do is there's a changing of zoning laws as far as how many dwellings per acre, which obviously will change the congestion in Lake Luzerne. There's obviously pros and cons to that, but as a current resident of Hidden Valley Road, what is the impact that I can expect as a result of this zoning change? And so I can determine whether or not I'm in favor or not in favor for it. Because I can see the benefit of an increase in residential attendees as far as taxes go and increasing the amount of younger people in the town. But I'm trying to figure out, okay, but what's the con to it? So if someone can explain that to me, and again, I couldn't see anything on the presentation. So so the reason why I got the letter, what's the impact? What's the negative impact of this new zoning law, if I can ask?
I am not sure exactly how to answer that question in terms of negative impact, but I think what you were talking about was traffic. Is that the concern?
Well, I think that's one of the concerns. I mean, so you're bringing this attention to the residents for a reason. And there's people who are in favor of it and not in favor for it. So I'm trying to figure out as a resident, why would I be in favor or not in favor for it? I mean, like, what would be what would be the impact of my quality of life of changing the zoning laws for Lake Luzerne?
I think that's really a subjective question. I don't know how to answer that question. Your quality of life be affected by homes. Where's your home actually?
Specifically, it's on 74 Hidden Valley Road.
Where is it relative to the Double H?
I'm just a stone throw actually away from the Double H.
And going towards the north?
Yes.
Yeah, probably have minimal impact on you. If there were an increase in traffic at all, it would probably be down towards Tubby Tubes.
Ah. Well, that's a fair assessment. Again, so I'm just trying to figure out, because obviously there's a landowner that's trying to develop and increase the amount of residential population on his land. Again, I'm just trying to figure out as a resident, how is that going to impact me? And then either to support or not support it. I hope you understand the question, and if other residents can share in the same inquiry.
Well, I think part of your question will be answered at the public hearing when everyone gets a chance to say whether they are for it or against it and why they are for it and against it. And at that point, perhaps you will be able to better judge for yourself whether you would be for it or against it.
You know, so ultimately,
I have kind of a related question, and I think it's sort of a offshoot of the first question that was asked tonight. I'm confused about the 8.3, the 1.3, and the 1. Let me ask that question a different way. Right now, if you were to build houses there that were legal, how many houses would you build? And
Well,
second question, if this was approved, how many houses would you be able to build? In other words, what's the delta? What's the difference?
The best way I can answer that question is that one slide that was, it's actually in the comprehensive plan, that if we actually got the zoning down to 1, which is 1.3 is close to it, if it went to that, probably about 30 homes.
By right,
But that's not on my
let's say
property.
you didn't have to do anything from the APA. You didn't have to get any approvals from them. Right now, if you built legal, but according to the APA, and if you built legal according to our town zoning, how many houses could you build?
I can't tell you about other people's property because I don't think that they're gonna change their mind. If you're talking about just my property,
that's a good
my
point, yes.
property is about 40% of the entire grid. If you looked at the entire grid, and on my property, you could probably get 10 now. If you change it, my number out of that 30 would be about 17. So it would affect me by about
So
7.
if the town was to support this, it would go from 10 to 17 houses.
About for me.
Is that kind of the question the first lady had?
There's an important point here that the park agency doesn't make decisions based on that. The park agency makes their decisions based on the land itself, the topography, the soils, the wetlands. That's what they look at. And I will tell you that the park agency has been on the land. 95% of the land fits in terms of slopes. There's only 5% slopes that exceed 15%. Over 70%, I believe the number is 74% of the soils fit what they look at wastewater and erosion and runoff and things like that. 74% of the soils are fine for that, according to the park agency. And you can read this, and this is in the information that they sent out based on that first proposal. So this is from the park agency itself. And part of the 25% or so that's not is what the
Yes, but I
wetlands
have,
are a piece of that,
and
and bedrock, which sheer rock is part of that 25%. So that's from the park agency viewpoint, that's what they look at. And you can find information right in their own information that says that this is suitable for 1.3.
I would just, this is Karen, the zoning officer. I just want to clarify that what is being proposed is not a zoning change. It's not going to change our zones at all. It is purely an Adirondack Park classification that will be changed. It is not our zoning at all. Our zoning right now will stay the same as it is for whatever it's classified in that area. The proposal is simply to change the Adirondack Park Agency classification.
Rod, did you have a question?
Rod Johnson, I live at 63 Bay Road in Lake Luzerne. This is a small town, full of rumors, 99% of which are true. I have a lot of questions just on what I've heard, but let me just check out some of the rumors that I've heard. Now, Mr. Reed, it's my understanding you own approximately 140 acres on the north side of Hidden Valley Road?
Not even close. I have 96.
Okay, you own 96 acres.
Right.
Of those 96 acres, how many of those acres are in the one residence per 8 acres or 8.5 acres APA?
Above 45, I think. Is that about right, Karen?
I don't know, Tom.
I think it's about 45.
Okay, so over half.
No, a little under half. 45 and 45 is 90. It's a little under half.
Okay, 45 out of 96.
Right.
Okay,
I think, don't hold me to that, but I think that's right.
okay, so that would be 45 to 48. So pretty close to half.
Yeah.
Of your property is under the one residence per 8 acres APA. Correct?
Pretty much all of it is.
It's at 1.3.
Well,
What, your question about the park agency zoning versus the town zoning, they're two different things. The park agency zoning for that whole area is one dwelling per 8.5 acres. The town zoning is different. The town zoning, about half of mine is 1 for 1 acre and 1 for 10 acres. So the town zoning is different.
okay, well, that was not made clear at all in your presentation that the APA classification is much more restrictive than the town classification. Is that correct?
Well, it is and it isn't. Where the town has 1 per 1, it's more restrictive. Where the town has 1 per 10, it's less restrictive. And this is, you have to look at the maps to see that. But my land, let's say, is a rectangle like this. It's not, but let's
It isn't.
pretend it's a rectangle, okay? If half of it is by the town 1 for 1 and the other is 1 for 10, which is about what it is, okay? Less than half and half, okay? And the park agency has 1 for 8.5 over that envelope. So part of it is more restrictive and part is less restrictive than the towns.
So let me see if I understand this. What you're asking the town board to do is to request the APA change their classification for a significant area off of Hidden Valley Road.
What I'm suggesting is that the town do what the person from the park agency suggested, was take this whole strip, which is about 104 acres, about 40 of which is mine, that whole strip, and make it look the same as the rest of the red area on both sides of Hidden Valley Road and both sides of 9N, which is already red. It's already there in the park agency. That's why the person from the park agency made this recommendation.
Well, again, it was my understanding that the town board already presented a request to the APA to have this rezoning done, and that request was rejected by the APA. Is that correct?
They rejected it without prejudice. It was during the pandemic. Meetings weren't held in a timely fashion. And without prejudice simply means you can come back and repropose it.
Right. Well, just so the people here who understand, without prejudice means it can be brought again.
Yes. Yes.
With prejudice means
It's
you're
done.
done.
Correct.
Okay. Now, one of the things you made, one of the things you said in your presentation, let me finish,
I
please.
just want to get away from what you were just talking about.
One of the things that you said in your presentation was that you would expect these homes to add to the enrollment at the school.
I would hope so.
I'll just share my opinion with you. I think that's a very unlikely occurrence.
Why?
Most of the homes that are being built in the town of Lake Luzerne are being built by retired people. And some of them have a lot of money.
That's
We
true.
just had a home built up on Fourth Lake, $3.5 million.
Yeah, that's
We had
true.
another home built up on Fourth Lake, $1.5 million. They're not going to bring any kids to school.
I agree with you.
I would be very concerned for the town board to get into a situation where they're beginning to do spot zoning. We're gonna rezone this little area to take care of this person or this corporation's needs. We'll do the same thing here, and we'll do another spot.
But it is not zoning that they're asking to be changed.
Pardon me?
It is not zoning that is asked, that they're asking to change. It's the APA classification. It's not
Then
zoning.
why isn't the APA here? Why isn't this an APA meeting?
I don't know why they're not here, other than that we haven't the town has not agreed to resubmit the application at this point. So they're not even aware that this is occurring.
But it's an APA, it's an APA. problem.
Yeah, and if it gets to the APA, then the APA will hold public, well, at least a public time period where the public can comment on it, public comment, I guess it's
Public
called.
comment as well as the public. hearing.
Right, if
Yep.
if it gets to them, if the town board eventually votes to proceed with this, then APA will be involved, but right now they're not even aware that that it's being talked about to represent it to them.
Okay, the APA isn't even aware that this process is going on. Yet Mr. Fazio makes a motion here at this meeting to turn this into a public hearing.
No, I didn't. I made a motion to have a public hearing on April 19th, not to turn this.
Say that again, Mike?
I made a motion to have a public hearing on April 19th, not to turn this meeting into. a
Not
public
this
hearing.
meeting. Okay,
Correct.
I misunderstood. you.
Can we hold up for a minute? We have to change the disc.
Pardon me?
We have to change the recording disc for the meeting. She has to change the disc. Just give us a minute.
Okay.
Remember I said 21 days from now and all that.
I won't take any more time, but I think.
Take
there's a
all the
lot
time
of-
you want.
I think there's a lot of.
Wait, we gotta
We
wait.
have to,
Time out.
we have
She's
to
got
put the
it.
disc in.
We're
to record it.
taping it, everything's getting taped, so she's
Yeah.
just changing the disc.
I've been concerned about zoning in the town of Lake Luzerne for a long, long time. In terms of, we have zoning, in my opinion, a lot of it is good zoning, but it's not being enforced. I'll give you two examples.
Right. Can you just wait till they change?
Wait,
the tape,
wait
please?
till change
Well,
the
that's
tape.
the third
Yeah, we'll get you,
time.
we'll get you on a record for that. What that we were,
So we get it on record of what you said.
I'm not used to all this technology. I don't even have a cell phone.
me neither.
I
It's a
wish I
George
could.
Washington
Imagine
flip phone.
I had a flip phone up until 2 months ago.
Imagine somebody not even having a smartphone.
I got a smartphone and I don't know how, I gotta call my grandson to help me out. get
Do
it
you want
going.
mine?
No, I'm not smart enough to use it.
You're not alone, Rod. You're not alone.
All right, go ahead, make your comments.
As I was saying, I've been concerned about zoning in the town of Lake Luzerne for a long time. I think a lot of our zoning is good, but a lot of our zoning, in my opinion, is not being enforced and hasn't been enforced for years. For example, mobile home ordinance. You could find examples where that ordinance is not being followed. Junk yards ordinance is not being enforced. You take a left at Stewart's, and the very first house on the left might have 3, 4, 5 unregistered vehicles, which is against the junkyard ordinance. I thought the idea that was floated by the town board to have some kind of a non-political committee begin to look at the town master plan, whatever you want to call it. I thought that was a great idea. And I would encourage the town to pursue that. But it needs to be non-political. Right now, in this town, in my opinion, the political climate is very, very unhealthy. And if it continues to be unhealthy, we're in a lot of trouble as a town. We have a great reputation as a town. We attract a lot of people as tourists. We attract a lot of people as residents who want to retire and come here and live. And that could go down the drain real quick. So be careful.
Thank you for your comment.
Thank you, Ron. Can you give me 1 second?
Yeah.
I'd just like to update the folks here on the revision to the comprehensive master plan. Last fall, 15 people were appointed by the board to form a committee, and the committee, we call it the TAC, Town Advisory Committee. The purpose of that committee is to be the major input into the redoing, updating, whatever you want to call it, of the town master plan. Currently, what's happened is just recently I went through the list of folks that had volunteered to be on that, and 2 of them have resigned. So we have at least 1, probably 2 spots to fill. Right now, our town planner is on vacation. She's due back middle of next week. And at that point, we're going to start working on the updating of the master plan. So some of you may have gotten a call or an email from me not too long ago. If you're on that committee, my purpose at that point was just to make sure the people that signed up still want to do it. We had a grant application pending to get it done, and we did not get that grant, so that kind of set us back a couple months. But now it's back on the front burner again.
Yes.
It's either 1 or 2. I just don't remember. Send an email or a letter, or probably if you stopped in, tell the town clerk that you're interested, and we'll take it from there.
You would submit a letter of interest, either by email or regular mail, or you could drop it off at our office.
The people that are on the committee, you remember, I think basically we got 15 applicants at the time. Took everybody.
One good meeting that I was in.
Yeah. So I don't think it was political because we took everybody.
No, it wasn't political at all.
Yeah.
You took anybody that wanted to help.
Yeah.
You need to have a mix of everybody. It shouldn't be just one side.
Yeah.
So, all right. I had a question for you, Tom, getting back to why we're all here. When you said the first submission to the APA was rejected without prejudice, why was it rejected? Was there something, was it because of the lack of the ability to meet them to meet because of COVID? Was it incomplete application? Was something wrong, missing? Why was it rejected without prejudice in your opinion?
Well, it was actually stated in the thing called a thesis at the SIS that the park agency sends out that says that this is what we did and this is why we did it. At the time, the park agency was looking for some additional information from the town, and the town attorney just replied that that was all the information they wanted to send.
So incomplete. Fair.
Sorry, and I'll be quick. I happened to attend that Zoom meeting for the APA, and some of the reasons that the project was rejected was some of the people that were reviewing it on the board for the APA were concerned that there wasn't enough information provided. If you check the Snow Green Valley website, there's a lot of information out there that causes one to question. Some of the reviewers said it looked like spot zoning, and some of them were concerned that it was hurting green spaces. And one of the big problems or rejection problems or tabling it was that there was a lot of public opposition. Thank you.
Why do you think they did it without prejudice in your opinion? Thank you.
All right. Anyone else? Yes, come on up.
Ellen Lyons from 21 Ridgewood Drive in Lake Luzerne. The APA has its own now to be preserved. So what about all the animals that are there? Like we have eagles back there. And ever since they built the road there, now I have a bear walking down my driveway. We have deer have eaten everything. Like all the animals, we have foxes running around our yard now. They all were living there and now they're all getting uprooted. Like what happens with that? Isn't that why the APA has it like that? To be preserved? That's why we bought here. So beautiful. What about that?
That would be the sort of question that when the APA has their hearing, you want to bring it up.
How you go out your door and here comes Mr. Bear just walking right by now because he got knocked out of there. It's not what we bought. We bought to be in the Adirondacks and the APA. That's what's dear to our heart.
Thank you for the comment. Good comment. Anybody else? All right, go ahead.
My name is Sandra Eber Sawyer, and I'm on 64 Hidden Valley Road, and I'm pretty much opposite of where you're going to be building. I'm still trying to understand exactly what you're doing. I've been there 44 years, and I've had peace and tranquility the whole time I've been there, and so have my neighbors. And most of my neighbors are on Zoom right now, and a couple back there. And everybody is concerned about the traffic and our tranquility and the water level. And when you build all those houses, how the water, the wells can be, affected. And I really don't understand. It was rejected. It's been rural all the years I've been there. And I understand when you buy property that you certainly want to build houses. But when you want to build that many houses to hurt everything around us, and we've been here for years, that doesn't make sense. But what I'm saying is, how many houses do you plan to build?
That really depends on what the park agent says. Right now,
And if they do not
Right now.
change it,
right now, I have the ability to build about a dozen houses with no changes.
you said 30 houses, sir.
That's what the town said was, if you remember the map that had the little yellow squares that I guess were not
Yeah,
legible.
I couldn't see them very
Yeah,
well.
yeah. But that was not just my property. That was that whole grid area. Back when the comprehensive plan was updated in 2010, they took a look at different places in the town for growth. And they actually spot cited those plans, and that had about 30 homes altogether in that whole grid. So you're not talking about Levittown here.
We've been here all the time. We definitely want to get along with you. Everybody wants to get along and has always gotten along in the area. But for one person to be happy, and like you said, spot zoning, and then the rest of the people to be unhappy, that's not fair. We pay taxes all these years here also. And we certainly don't want to stop you from building, period. But too much building would not be good for all the years we've been there and the new people that talk. One
There's-
person can be happy and everybody else unhappy.
Yeah, there's safeguards to that, and they all comes from zoning, the proper zoning and permitting. And it all starts with land use in terms of whether the soils can take it, whether topography can take it, where the wetlands are, all of that. And there are comments that you can find in the thesis that they sent out that say that the land is appropriate for development, that it is appropriate for wastewater septic systems. It's right there in black and white. So, excuse me? So the park agency said it. It was the park agency's comments.
But if it was turned down because everybody writing that they were not happy with that.
The main reason why it was turned down was because the town attorney didn't respond. That, it says it right there. And she can read it and she'll tell you when she reads it that that's what they were looking for, a response from the town attorney. And the town attorney basically said, we're going to let things stand the way they are.
throughout the entire park, Adirondack Park. And then there's a regional plan-based land use resource. And can that be spot season and simply made for one person's game?
I agree with that.
I think that's one of the reasons they did turn it down. That was interesting. I just don't know how it can be changed from rural to modern intensity when it's been that way all these years.
The main thing that the park agency looks at this from a very scientific way. They look at the soils, they look at the topography, they look at the wetlands, and if all of those things say that this is developable area, then they say it's okay. They're not looking at emotional things. They're not looking at opinions. They're looking at the land itself. And when they looked at that land, 73% of it was developable. That excluded the wetlands, that excluded sheer rocks, things like that. 95% of it from a topography standpoint was developable. So that's what the park agency looks at first. So in that sense, the land, it's not going to cause any problems for people's water. And that was stated in the park
But what
agency's
about the
opinion.
congestion? Across the street from me, it's always been wetlands in that area right there across the street from my house, on the other side of the road.
If there were wetlands, then the park agency, actually, the park agency was on the property. And the wetlands that were supposed to be there are actually smaller than they thought they were going to be. So they were there last October, outlining wetlands with the surveyors.
But you say you plan to build how many houses?
Without, right now, I can build about a dozen houses on the property. Take 96,
Because of the way it's
take 96
zoned.
and divide it by 8.5.
Because of the way it's zoned, is that correct?
Correct.
Well, if by chance it wasn't zoned that way, how many would you build? And how much comes out to them?
Probably about, I would say probably 17 or 18.
Think about.
Well, the other people may want to build on their properties. Let's keep in mind, mine isn't the only property there.
Okay, well, I just.
Well, you're
meeting
asking
for the
reasonable
first time,
questions.
Meeting everybody for the first time. Been there 44 years, never had a problem, never caused a problem, so that's why I'm.
The
I'm here
questions
to
you're
speak
asking are
about this,
reasonable
which
questions.
Really bothers all of us.
If the Adirondack Park application isn't submitted by the town board, and if he proceeded with just building what he's already allowed to build, even that would still have to go through a pretty significant process. Specifically, I know it would have to go through our planning board.
And all the people would be called in to agree or not to agree on it
There'd be
around that
a,
area
there'd-
also.
there'd be a public hearing. Yeah.
Well, thank you for hearing me.
I think, excuse me,
Nice meeting you, everybody.
I've been sitting here for quite a while now and listening. And I know when the so-called West Mountain expansion was going to take place. Okay, and maybe it's still someday. Okay, they were basically looking at development that was going to cause another town over there. Okay, and the impact in the town would have been quite substantial. Okay, if you look around the town presently, I don't know how much property you own. Are you on the lakeside?
I'm not on the lakeside. I'm just about an acre. It's right really across from Mr. Reed and Mrs. Reed.
Okay, so you own about an acre, you say?
Yeah.
Okay, so you know approximately how much property you own if the house is somewhat centered, okay? I know some of these other people that own quite a bit more, okay? And of course, they bought property to have their own little sanction, okay? If you look over the whole town aspect, a lot of the property, other than getting out in the outskirts, are probably acre, 2 acre properties for most people. And I believe what was so, people got scared of the development on that West Mountain situation. And some of this is coming back on this, okay? I don't believe Mr. Reed is looking for anything way out of contents to a degree, okay? As you can see, the 17 homes, your whole area over there hasn't got much more than that, have they?
You mean on the street we're on, in the back around the way?
Yeah.
Well, that's why we are there.
Huh?
We are there for the rural and the tranquility.
Right.
And we don't want to be overcrowded.
But I'm just saying, you've got about 17, let's say 20 homes around that lake. I'm just trying to, some people can't visually see what the gentleman is talking about in the size of the lots and things of this size.
See, when you go on Ridgewood Road, I'm very familiar with it. There are cabins right on top of each other. You know it. If you're on Ridgewood,
Not on my road, not on Hidden Valley Road.
when you go off Hidden Valley Road onto Ridgewood Road, which right at the top of the hill goes off, Gilmore used to live right at the top there. Those cabins are right on top of each other. They're right next to each other. So the properties along Lake Menard, it's not unusual, by the way, when you have lakefront property, you get a lot of population on lakefront property. And the interesting thing is, people are concerned about wastewater systems and things like that. On very small lots, you would be concerned about wastewater. Well, we don't have a problem with wastewater. We don't have problems with septic systems on there because we have very good drainage. It's the same soils there as it is on the other side of Hidden Valley Road. It's sand and rock, basically. That's what it is. So, wastewater simply isn't an issue. The properties that I build are certainly meant to be on small properties. You've got one property down there, I think it's 6/10 of an acre. And I think that's what Gilmore's house is on, 6/10 of an acre, maybe a little bit smaller. So those were there previously, but they're grandfathered, so nobody's gonna make it go in and knock them down for crying out loud. So
I don't want to try to keep you so long, but I just wanted to express what I felt. And I
Right.
appreciate you listening. to me.
We appreciate your time, really.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think there's some hands up there. Tell us who it is. Who? Glenn C. Can you give us your last name?
He's on mute.
I'm off mute now.
All right, speak up, go ahead. What's your
Okay.
last name?
Conciatori. Nice Italian name.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. We bought a house on 41 Ridgewood Drive just this past October. We're right on the lake and we enjoy it. And, we bought it because of the rural feel that the place has. And, without having the ability to look at the maps, it's kind of hard to envision exactly what is planned. But we would really, like to keep that feeling that we have now as much as can be accomplished.
All right, we said we're gonna try to get some of these things out to you. People, please contact Karen and so we'll get your email and your address, and we'll see what we can do, get some of these maps out to the people.
Great.
Can you email that deck that you used tonight to Karen so she can send it out to people if they request it? Are you okay with that? That would work, right?
All right, so if you get to Karen with your email, we'll get what we saw tonight on the wall. We'll get it to you to be able to look at.
He's talking to you.
Okay.
All right, thank you. I see another hand. Who's the other one? Ashley Harris.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Hi, I live on Hall Hill Road. I'm originally from Queensbury and I have two small kids in the school district. Um, I have some concerns and questions, but my main question right now is the APA or town zoning, would either of those be specifically for single family dwellings, or can these properties also be for multi-family dwellings? And the reason why I ask that is because, as a younger family, having lived in like more congested areas, we moved to Luzerne because we liked the quiet, the space, the room for our kids to grow where we felt like they were safer. And so with bringing in more people, which these homes would most likely be either, vacation properties and things like that, because honestly, people in my age group, we can't afford homes. So it would either be rental properties or multi-family dwellings. So I just didn't know whether there were zoning issues regarding that with APA or with the town.
Multi-family homes or?
Yes, would these be specifically single family, or could they, if you chose, would they have the option to become multi-family? Because there was a mention of there being a multi-phase plan and things like that. And so without knowing specifics, if there is the possibility of expanding into a multi-family home for the properties, then that once people approve this, then it could move that way and people wouldn't know. So that's why I was just wondering if it was locked into single family or if these could expand into multi-family dwellings.
That's a good question. Karen, can you answer that?
I don't, we have looked at this for single family homes only at this point. However, I would have to look at the zoning book, which I did not bring in with me, unfortunately, but for multi-family homes apart, they would be subject to a site plan review at the very minimum. And so if they are allowed, which I think in residential resort, they would be allowed if there's enough land there. The acreage changes for the type of use that you put on a certain parcel. And, but it would be a multi-family home would be subject to at least a site plan review before it was ever approved. So
that would be after it was zoned, correct? I'm sorry.
Correct. And again, this is not, what's being proposed is not a zoning change. So what it is right now exists and still will exist that way, whether or not this application gets submitted to the Adirondack Park Agency or not. But I believe, and again, I don't have my book in front of me, so I can't really say without looking it up. I believe that multifamily homes would be subject to a site plan review at this point if they were allowed in those zones. And I think that they are allowed in those zones, but they would be subject to a site plan review at a very minimum.
Okay, so it is a possibility, even if it's not on the table now, down the road, that could potentially happen because there is room for that. And so concern for me is I have a child with special needs. We have, my family's been involved with Double H. So, children's safety, that is a big concern for me as well. So just thinking of multiple, family rental situations, people coming and going, that would be the most likely situation where you would bring in younger families to the school district, because that is what draws young families is the school district 99% of the time. The property, building more homes in that area. We can look at Glen Lake, we can look in Sacandaga, we can see what that looks like when we start adding homes to those smaller areas. So, that on top of Double H being such a large presence right there, preserving their safety, preserving the safety of the kids who are in the area, that's a concern as well. So that's why I wasn't sure about, the multifamily. So I appreciate you, your openness about that. We're not quite sure. It is a question mark. So
I've written it on my note here. I will try to take a look and see, but we hadn't discussed that when we were looking at this anyway, but I will look.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Janice?
Hi, thank you. Just one comment regarding the animals and the preservation of the area. I did read the documents from the APA, I think in the summertime, and there are 15 acres of wetlands and streams in on that property that you're trying to develop. And the large concern for us in Lake Veneer, or on the lake, and we use it for sports and swimming and everything else, we're concerned about the effect because the stream feeds directly into Lake Veneer if you look at the maps. So how is that going to affect us? It's a, big concern. And how would it be preserved to be the natural clear lake it is now? Unlike across the road, across Route 9, Lake Forest is pretty swampy over there. And that would be the last thing we'd want to happen to our beautiful Lake Veneer.
If the land is indeed wetlands, you cannot develop or build on the wetlands. You can develop and build up to the wetlands, but you cannot build or develop on the wetlands.
Okay, and the other part that they identified is that this land is part of 18,000 acre block of rural use, undisturbed forest, significant area for wildlife conservation. So that's another big concern as far as developing this area. As everyone has already stated, we're the attraction to the Adirondack Park is the preservation and the beauty of it and the naturalness. So
I think it's important to say that even if this land were reclassified by the Adirondack Park Agency, anyone wishing to develop within that area still has to submit their development to the Adirondack Park Agency for approval. And if there is any, if they find any I'm going to say violation of building in an area that is not supposed to be built upon in their regulations, then they would deny whatever was being put in front of them if it were indeed reclassified. It's a process, even if it does not get reclassified and Mr. Reed chooses to come back to subdivide the property that he particularly owns that is part of the area asking to be reclassified. Any subdivision in that has to be approved here at the town level. It would be considered a major subdivision. It would be open for a public hearing. And he would have to have Adirondack Park Agency approval. That would be it would be one of the conditions that the planning board would put on their approval if they approved it, would be that Adirondack Park Agency approved it. That's written into our zoning ordinance that anything that goes in front of the planning board and the zoning board is to be referred to the Adirondack Park Agency to see if they have jurisdiction over it or not, regardless of whether it gets reclassified or not.
If there is wetlands in kind of that jurisdiction too.
Right, there's other entities could have jurisdiction. Usually the lead agency targets those wetlands and whatever, but again, you cannot build and develop on wetlands. You can build and develop up to wetlands, but not on them.
I think the septic setback near wetlands is 150 feet. 100 feet.
100, yeah.
Thank you, Karen.
thank you.
I'm trying to get on, anybody else on the board? Okay, no more hands.
I just got a quick question for Mr. Reed. If a lot of this happens or doesn't happen, but at the present, you have X amount of houses that you are able to build. How many are actually going to be seen from the Hidden Valley Road? Probably one.
Did everybody hear that? Okay.
His answer was one.
I have a quick, just interrupt anybody. Has any study been done on what demographic you're gonna bring into the area? And if it's a younger demographic, is there a study been done in the area for the employment of those people? Because to bring a young demographic in, you have to have industry. And if there's no, we're going,
I would agree with that. No.
you know,
Unless the
the right job
Unless
site.
Warren County has done something, I'm not aware of it, but Warren County had a major publication last October.
Rock and roll.
That's the
Um,
end of the show.
If there's the Lake Champlain, Lake George Regional Development Agency, I believe it's called RDA. They had a grant out of the CARES program to look at the 5 counties that are within that group. And they had a publication out last October. It was published, and that's very informative. It talks about housing, it talks about medical, it talks about transportation, infrastructure, and everything. And you'll find a lot of information in there. There is a great deal of worry at the county level about what's happened in our area. And housing is a huge piece of it, to the extent that even in there, they have a angel investor that will invest in a company that will build panel homes so that they can get less expensive homes up here in the Adirondacks. So it's an interesting publication. Pick it up and read it. It's you can get it online. It's called Forward Together or something of that nature. Yeah.
I guess like my concerns, like you hear Mr. Johnson, Rod Johnson, it's the exclusion of like around the lake. It's a natural process. I grew up in the Heights when I was a child, when I was 10 years old. It is a valid concern of what demographics going to come in and what does to people's taxes, the knock-on effect up the road. You know, and there's questions I had about if you had any study done on that or present to the people that day that it's something you have to go look for it.
Nobody
Send them to look for it. If you have that on that public meeting, it'd be a good idea to have that because that's going to be a lot of questions. There's affordable housing in the area. And around the lakes, it's a big concern of the people in the town.
Affordable housing is huge everywhere in the Adirondacks. Every town in the Adirondacks has lost population in the last 10 years. Every single town.
Yep. New York State has.
Except Queensbury and Horgan. We are tied for second in terms of the most people lost in the last 10 years. Lake Luzerne. We're by actual numbers. So if you're eliciting your concern, that's a good concern to have. Because not only are we losing people, the people that are here, that have remained here, are older. And many of them are on fixed income. We'll hear people say, you know, like some people here said, you know, we really don't want any growth. Well, there's no such thing as no growth.
Understood.
There's just no such
Understood.
thing.
Yeah, I understand.
So, you know, if we keep going this way, we're going to keep going essentially backwards.
Yes, I'm also, thank you.
Go ahead.
Johnson again, 63 Bay Road. I'd just like to clarify a couple of other rumors that I've heard, and I'll address them directly to Mr. Reed. One rumor I heard was that you have an application yourself in front of the APA for preliminary approval. Is that correct?
We have discussions with the park agency for several lots, yes. One of them for my daughter.
So that's separate from this.
Separate from this.
Let's talk about your 12 homes that you could build there now under the current zoning. Okay. Could you give me an idea of what kind of money you're talking about to purchase a lot?
No idea.
No idea. Could you give me any idea of what kind of price you would be looking at, price break point for the houses that you want to build?
I'm not going to be a builder. I'm going to be a developer. I've done this before. I did it in Clifton Park.
Somebody's got to have the money.
Right. We sell lots. We will sell lots. We'll figure out how much it costs, how much are into it, and then we'll sell lots. And then a person that buys a lot will find a builder and get his permits or her permits and go forward.
Well, another rumor that's going around town is that Jamie Muller is going to be your builder. And Jamie Muller is on the town planning board.
Jamie Mueller is building homes that are much more expensive, I think, than are gonna go in there.
I believe that Jamie has had his name taken off of whatever you had put on the internet. Is that correct?
Originally, before Jamie got really busy, we talked about having Jamie as one of the preferred builders because he was on the zoning something.
Zoning Board of
Board of
Appeals.
Appeals. He asked for us to take his name off of there. If somebody buys a lot and contracts with Jamie to build a home, Jamie can build a home.
Yeah, I just would be worried about conflict of interest, being on a planning board or a zoning board and also being a builder.
He would recuse himself.
But
if
that's
there were-
that's another aside.
Paul might end up the way-
Is it safe to say, Mr. Reed, that you're not planning on building affordable housing?
I would build affordable, the more lots that are available there, the more affordable homes you could put in there. That's, it basically amounts to that. Think about this, if you could only put 5 homes in there versus 15 homes, you could put smaller lots in there with less expensive homes.
Could you give me an idea of what your definition of an affordable home is in Lake Luzerne, price wise?
I don't know. I don't
don't
know. Because building materials have gone sky high. That's an unfair question, actually, because who knows where building materials are gonna land.
Help you out, Mr. Johnson. I do work with contractors.
You do what?
I'm an HVAC contractor. I've owned my own business now for 25 years out of this town. Okay? The average cost for a house right now, and I'm not talking any high-end, a lot of tile, a lot of hoopla, whatever you want to call it.
Basic.
A basic house. I was just involved with bidding and listening to the contractor on a 2,200 square foot house. The average cost is running between $400,000 and $450,000.
Right.
And this is all caused from this pandemic. Okay?
I think
Very
there's a
much
lot of
of it.
other factors
I-
besides the pandemic.
Well, I just talked to one contractor just last week. Okay, he raised his total payroll $15 to pay his men for an increase for the year. All the rest of it was due to increases, okay, on the cost of material.
Well, if you think it's bad now, wait until all these building materials start going down to Kentucky and West Virginia and those other 2 states that were devastated by the tornadoes.
I did a house.
It's going to get worse.
It is. I did a house last August, a piece of ductwork, 5 foot long, 8 inches high, and 30 inches wide. I paid $72 for it. Last week, I paid $128 for that same piece of ductwork.
Control.
And I would come back to something that you said about Mount Luzerne. I think the thing that put that under the ground is the people with the deep pockets came to the conclusion that it wasn't doable. And they weren't willing to empty their pockets.
Not disagree with you. I can't disagree with you.
Yeah. So I won't make any comment about Mr. Reed's timing to be a developer. But I want to encourage the town board to think about our town and what's important for our town and think about the environmental factors that make this the special place that it is to live. And this young lady, if she thinks she's not going to get disturbed on her 5 acres on Hidden Valley Road, if another 10 or 12 or 17 homes are built across the road, she's right. She's going to be disturbed along with others. But you gotta remember, you're going to build 12 homes. You're going to put in 12 septic systems. And that water runs downhill. Always. Water never runs uphill. And you're gonna have to drill 12 wells. Because there's no town water. And that water comes out of the aquifer. Just keep those things in mind. Be careful.
All right, anyone else like to? Yes, sir. Come on, come up here so you can be taped and we can get your name.
Roland Sawyer from 64 Hidden Valley. Okay. I direct this at you, Mr. Reed. You said you probably could see one home from Hidden Valley Road.
Yeah.
Where's that in relation to 64 Hidden Valley?
I don't know where 64 is.
Come down over the hill to the access road. There's something on the right.
Going towards,
Going towards the,
Dublin.
Yeah.
I don't think you'll see it.
pardon?
I don't think you'll see the house.
Well, now your access road is still where you went by your sign. Or is that different?
That's a potential access road. There's another potential access road about 300 feet further towards you, going into the woods there. So it'll be one or the other.
So we'll be closer to this, to our place in 64.
Yeah.
We can down into the hill.
Yes.
Probably built by your first or second.
Yes, it'll be right near one of the one Christmas signs.
And then you take that back.
That would go back. Yeah.
And then you've got cul-de-sacs.
Well, you don't have anything now.
No, I know, but that's on.
That would be the idea, so that the houses would be private.
Okay, so if you say you could see one from the road through the field, or closer to,
That would be closer to the top of the hill, the crest of the hill.
we're back towards 9
Towards, yes, towards 9 from where you are. So you'd be going, you know where my sign is? Going up towards the sign.
Sign.
Sign. I'm sorry?
No, you
I
don't.
didn't.
No. He said where his sign is, head back toward 9N, a little ways.
So
That would be the one house that you might be able to see. W2. Yeah.
And as far as the wetlands go, okay, now that's DEC, just designated wetland.
APA came in and the park agents themselves came in with their wetlands people. And they actually marked the wetlands that are in there. Yeah,
I thought the state said it.
I'm sorry.
Both organizations do it.
They're all the same.
Yeah.
What DEC and the park agency are hand in hand. So, yes. They don't have-
So, you know, you go down over the hill from our place down into the low area, that's part of the wetland.
Actually, it's a couple hundred feet back in. That land that, you know, over the hill there, that actually goes back a couple hundred feet before you hit wetland.
That is or is not built.
That would depend on the builder. That would depend on the surveyor. The surveyor would have to look at that to say whether or not lots were practical there. Okay, make an assumption that there's a plan here. There's no plan here.
No, only what you had schematic.
Right, that was and if you look closely, it said suggested or something like that. It wasn't a surveyor's thing.
So we're, as it is right now, then from where we are, probably would not see any.
You would probably see one house,
But
and that would probably be 100 feet off the road.
it would be back up by.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
so that wouldn't be directly across.
Not, there's only, the only reason I'm saying even that one is my daughter is looking and moving here and that would be where she wanted to go. So I said, okay. You're welcome.
All right, folks. Anything else really? We're trying to get everybody in, so nobody on, okay. All right. Got a motion adjourned?
Just remind them of public hearings.
Yeah, and just remember about the public hearing is gonna be on the 19th. It'll be on our website.
And thank you for sharing your thoughts.
Make a
I make a
motion.
motion to adjourn.
Second.
Got a motion in a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Second.
We're adjourned.